Out of nowhere, Man of Medan has made its way to the Switch, and as a long-time fan of the Dark Pictures Anthology, I could not wait to dive in. Now these are cinematic horror experiences, putting you in the shoes of a cast of characters, and then testing your decision-making abilities and nerves as you strive to keep them alive. Now the big question on my mind here was, how would this game run on the Switch, and is it going to be worth a visit to this world? Well, that's what I'm here to find out. My name's Alex, so this is SwitchCorner. Let's get started. If you enjoyed the video today, consider subscribing, it helps out the channel a huge amount. Man of Medan then is the first game in the Dark Pictures Anthology series, bringing supernatural elements to the forefront of its story, and it revolves around four friends who set sail on a rented ship with a captain at the helm for a holiday diving trip. Their goal here is to locate a World War II wreck at a location that they believe they have pinpointed, and then potentially dig up some rumoured gold in that process. However, things of course take a turn for the worse, and they end up facing off against pirates and then boarding a ship from World War II that is now essentially a graveyard for the original crew. Now this game isn't particularly scary in my opinion, despite the tense moments and occasional jump scares, but it very much fits the theme well. The narrative, it just manages to bring everything together in a satisfying way, and the narrator occasionally appears and updates you on your progress. He is a highlight and the key factor in kind of tying all of the entries together. Overall, the story is great and it sets the stage for what became a great series, and this is the first entry to hit the Switch. Hopefully now it leads the way for the remaining entries. So most of the gameplay with this one takes place aboard a World War II vessel that you will be exploring, but the game starts with a few smaller sequences that quickly educate you on the core mechanics, and this is through a flashback sequence as well as the opening elements of the holiday dive. Now the controls here, they are simple yet effective, allowing you to move, interact, analyze, and then walk at a slightly faster pace. The game doesn't feature combat, but action-packed sequences are frequent, and these are handled with quick-time events. Well, I'm not always a fan of quick-time events, and I did enjoy them in Man of Medan because just a few mistakes here can lead to the death of one or more characters, whether that's from the supernatural or humans that they do face off against. These events as well, they can appear at any time, so it definitely keeps you locked in, it keeps your attention, because should you make a mistake and a cast member dies, it is really gonna be moving on from that point. Do not even try to quit the game and jump back in. This game just kind of auto-saves instantly. That is why though the replayability here is so high. Your choices lead to different outcomes, and it's possible to save or lose all of the cast members dependent on the decisions you do make. It's also worth noting it can be played in single player, in online co-op for 2 players, or in what is called a movie mode. That's kind of local play where up to 5 people can control a character each. Now I didn't get to play the Switch build in this way, but I did on the PlayStation back in the day, and it was great fun as you all scream at the screen. All in all as well, the adventure should take you around 4 hours, which I believe is the perfect length for this type of experience. The game also features an extended chapter and the creator's cut, which adds in new scenes and decisions, and that is accessible from the main menu. Issues with controls, and it's more about enjoying the story than complex interactions, and that's probably a good thing, as I would describe the movement here as clunky. It is a game that works with a fixed perspective camera for the most part, and the movement reminds me of old school Resident Evil, though it's not quite tank controls. Basically though, it is all done with just the left stick. The right stick, it will allow you to kind of pan the camera very slightly, but it's really not going to help you all of that much, and that's because nearly every situation that pushes you forward here to the end goal is scripted, so it's not really like avoiding something will end up helping you. In fact, outside of character deaths impacting sequences that you do see, it is an extremely linear experience. One of the highlights of Man of Medan though is the locations that we do get to explore, and there's plenty of secrets here to uncover in the form of collectibles that are scattered around the world. What's great about these collectibles is they don't feel forced, which could have impacted the cinematic impact of the game. Instead, these collectibles provide more information about the cast, the location, the crew, and basically what life was like on board. These collectibles then can be accessed from the main menu, and you can see how many you did miss. On completion of the game as well, you'll get special content including small videos detailing the characters, and then also the history of anthology horror, which is definitely a nice touch. Additional problems for gameplay then, outside of the control scheme being somewhat rigid, each character just feels identical and their skills are all near the same. I would have loved to have seen just some different abilities attached to specific characters, just to, differentiate the cast a tiny bit. Additionally, when exploring, interactable items are often highlighted with a button prompt on the screen, but I found this occasionally, it was difficult to get the interaction to occur. It appears a few of the hitboxes are just a tiny bit off, and the game expects you to be in the exact required position. For gameplay though, overall, if you enjoy cinematic adventures, FMVs, or just horror in general, then I do think this is well worth a look. Single player is great fun, and if you do have the option to jump online or play with a group in front of a TV, then that is for sure recommended. Games where your choices clearly impact the outcome are so rewarding, and that's why I like these so much. This was just a good start for a series that, for the most part now, if we get the rest of the games, it goes from strength to strength. Performance-wise, the developers of Man of Medan were very transparent about the game's limitations. On the eShop page, they clearly stated that the game runs at 24 frames per second. When I heard that the game had been surprise dropped on the Switch, honestly, I expected it to be a cloud release. However, they've done it the right way here, and I'm impressed that they were able to bring the game to the Switch. While at 24 frames per second may seem low, it's really what we see in movies, so it makes sense for this cinematic experience. The frame rate does fluctuate slightly, however, but I'd say it's not noticeable until the end game, where a few sequences, they definitely push the hardware a little too much, resulting in some more significant drops. I will add though, it didn't harm my enjoyments. Considering the hardware limitations of the Switch, I'm quite impressed with the graphics of Man of Medan. I initially thought it was going to be a cloud release, as I said, due to the game's high demands, but the developers, they managed to keep the vision of the experience intact. Of course, there are issues with textures here being blurred at times, especially when investigating items up close. However, fortunately, the game is countering this by using crisp and easy to read pop-up text on the right hand side of the screen. Additionally, I noticed a flicker between scenes at times due to the processing of textures. Also, however, there is almost a lighting flicker as well, and this is because when it transitions the camera angle or the scene, there seems to be just a couple of frames before it actually catches up with the background lighting, so it can create kind of this unusual visual effect. Character models then have been downgraded as well, and some effects such as smoke, they have been removed. This though doesn't impact the world's kind of ambience significantly, and that is, to me, the most important thing. One challenge on the Switch is that the game's world is very dark at times, making it a little bit more difficult to identify where to go next, and also to judge your character's placement in the world, and this can be put down to that lower resolution. Overall, though, these expected cutbacks do not detract from the game's overall look, and I didn't feel like the game lost any of its weight in the transition to the Switch. The team, they clearly put some real effort into this port. Moving on to the audio then, Man of Medan boasts a top caliber cast, which is essential in selling the story. Although not all of the characters may be likable, this is intentional and it contributes to the overall experience. The game's world is filled with audio effects that create a creepy atmosphere, and the team did an impressive job of creating effects that sound kind of, I guess, ominous and supernatural. While the music isn't particularly memorable, then it serves the same purpose as the effects, and that is building an atmosphere where it absolutely succeeds. One unique design element though is the implementation of subtitles. Basically, when you start the game, the subtitles are off and all characters, they speak English, with a few also speaking French on occasion. This intentional choice leaves you guessing about what the French characters are saying, putting you almost in the character's shoes. However, if you turn the subtitles on, the game will translate everything into English for you. I do wish there was an option to translate only the French dialogue, leaving the English dialogue unsubtitled, just to kind of maintain that immersion. Overall, Man of Medan is an enjoyable experience despite its flaws. Even with the downgrade that's taken place, it's still easy to find the enjoyment in guiding this cast of characters on this adventure of survival. I also respect the launch price. It's $20 or your regional equivalent, meaning it is half of what it was back at its original launch, and that is a real and nice surprise because, let's face it, so often publishers love to throw in a bit of Switch tax as well. So today, it's a good 7 out of 10 from me, and hopefully this team now gives the same treatment to the rest of the series, and perhaps even The Quarry, which was their most recent release, and it is very much a similar style. So will you be checking out Man of Medan on the Switch? Let me know in the comments. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews, deals, lists and news daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.